Hello everyone. In this presentation, we will discuss the management of shock. At the end of the presentation, we would the following objectives related to the shock, that are what the shock is, what are the symptoms related to shock, different types of shock, and pathological consequences of shock, and ultimately the clinical management of shock. We will start with shock is actually acute widespread reduction in the effective tissue perfusion that results into the imbalance of oxygen demand and supply, along with the anaerobic metabolism, lactic acidosis, cellular organ dysfunction, which ultimately leads to the metabolic abnormalities. And if this situation gets prolonged, then it may lead to irreversible damage and death. Many symptoms are there related to the shock, but they are basically non-specific. So if we talk about the skin, the symptoms appear on the skin are the skin becomes pale and cool. Related to respiratory system, breathing becomes rapid and shallow. And if we talk about the cardiovascular system, it results into the low BP, low cardiac output. Basically, the contractility behavior of the heart gets affected because of the imbalance between oxygen demand and supply, along with the weak pulse. And neurological symptoms are restlessness, anxiety, lethargy, and confusion. There are majorly four types of shocks: cardiogenic, hypovolemic, septic, and anaphylactic. We will take up these types of shock one by one. First, we will discuss the cardiogenic shock. As the name suggests, cardio means related to heart. Failure of heart to pump sufficient blood to the tissues results into the cardiogenic shock. Basically, the reasons involved are left heart failure, ischemia, which could be a blockage anywhere into the heart, blood vessels, or along with the periphery, myocardial infarction, arrhythmias, pulmonary embolism, or pericardial infection. Hypovolemic shock, it is the loss of blood. This loss could be because of the accidental hemorrhage, burns, profuse sweating, excessive urination, vomiting, or diarrhea. Septic shock is basically, it targets the multiple organs. Multiple organ dysfunction results because of the pathogenic attack. And these pathogenic organisms, they multiply in such a manner that they appear in the blood in large volume. The possible reasons for septic shock are inflammatory responses to the bacterial, fungal, or parasitic attack. Last is anaphylactic shock, which occurs because of the acute allergic reactions. These allergies could be from different allergens. It varies from person to person also. Some people have the allergy to penicillins, nuts, shellfish, or animal proteins. As we have discussed in the definition part, the whole pathophysiology comes under the definition. The consequences of shock are like, when the shock occurs, it results into the collapsed circulatory systems. The circulatory system is unable to supply oxygen to the particular tissue or to the system in normal physiological form. When the tissue does not get the enough blood supply, then it results into the altered metabolism, which ultimately leads to functional alterations and eventually the irreversible damage if this functional abnormalities persist for longer duration. And ultimately the death occurs or multiple organ failure can be observed during the shock. Now the clinical management of shock, how we can treat the shock-like conditions. Initial treatment includes the basic life support while identifying the underlying cause. So we have to administer the fluids or electrolytes to maintain the balance and the blood products if the patient has lost a significant amount of blood, say for example in case of accidental hemorrhage. So first and foremost thing is to maintain the ABC of life support, means airway, breathing and circulation. Proper ventilation should be there with the patient. Ensure the proper breathing, supply of oxygen should be there, and maintain the circulation of the body system, and provide the IV infusion. Now if we talk about the drug categories which are used in the treatment of shock, there are three major categories of drug which are used for treating the shock: vasoconstrictors, cardiotonic drugs, fluid replacement agents. First of all, vasoconstrictors. Vasoconstrictors are basically the drugs which increases or maintains the blood pressure. Early stages of shock, the body compensates for initial fall in blood pressure by increasing the sympathetic nervous system tone, and this sympathetic activity results in vasoconstriction, which ultimately leads to increase in blood pressure and heart rate or force of contraction. But this is for basically the short term. To maintain the blood flow to vital organs, this sympathetic nervous system activation plays a major role, but we should take care of about the overdosage. If it has not been taken care, severe hypotension may develop, so the patient should be monitored continuously during the infusion of vasoconstrictor agent. The major vasoconstrictors used are epinephrine, norepinephrine and methoxamine hydrochloride. Epinephrine is a non-selective adrenergic agent. It acts on alpha-1 receptors, beta-1 receptors as well as beta-2 receptors. But the action on these receptors is different altogether. When epinephrine acts on the alpha-1 receptors, the stimulation of alpha-1 receptor result into the rise in BP. And when epinephrine acts on the cardioselective receptors, that are beta-1 receptors, then it increases the cardiac output by increasing the force of contraction. On the other hand, when it acts on the beta-2 receptors, it dilates the bronchi or relieves the spasm to make the airway open. If we talk about the norepinephrine, norepinephrine has both alpha and beta-1 activity. Therefore, it increases blood pressure as well as cardiac output both. And methoxamine hydrochloride is a selective alpha receptor and thus causes only rise in BP. Basically, the vasoconstrictor category is used to maintain the BP. Now the cardiotonics. Cardiotonic drugs are basically the inotropic agents. They are used in the treatment of shock to increase the force of contraction and to maintain the decreased cardiac output to a level so that the heart can meet up the demand of oxygen and supply. As the cardiogenic shock progresses, the heart begins to fail, which results in decreased cardiac output and lowering amount of blood reaching the vital tissues, which results in aggravation of the shock. That is why the cardiotonic agents have been used. The cardiotonic agents used in the treatment of shock are digoxin, dobutamine and dopamine. Digoxin is positive inotropic agent and increases the force of contraction of heart. Dobutamine acts on the beta-1 adrenergic receptors and it is a drug of choice for short-term treatment of shock because it has a T-half of only 2 minutes and it causes the heart to beat more forcefully without significantly increasing the heart rate. Thereby, it increases the cardiac output and assists in maintaining the blood flow to vital tissues and organs. Dopamine actually acts in a different manner according to the dose. means the mechanism of action is basically dose dependent. In low doses, it stimulates the beta 1 receptors in kidneys and causes the vasodilatation and increased blood flow to the kidneys. And they are used in treatment of hypovolemic as well as cardiogenic shock, both conditions. On moderate doses, if we use dopamine, then it stimulates the beta 1 receptors and causes the heart to beat with more force of contraction and thereby increasing the cardiac output. And in higher doses, it stimulates the alpha receptors. Now the difference is, at low doses and at moderated doses, dopamine acts only on beta 1 receptors. But on higher doses, it stimulates the alpha receptors and causes the vasoconstriction action and raises the blood pressure. Now the third and last category in the management of shock is fluid replacement agents. They are used to replace blood or other fluid lost during the hypovolemic shock. Fluid replacement agents are basically divided into three categories: blood, colloids and crystalloids. Blood is basically used or indicated for treatment of acute massive blood loss when there is a need to replace plasma volume and the supply of red blood cells. On the other hand, colloids are used when 1/3 of the blood volume gets lost up. Colloids are proteins. They stay suspended in the blood for longer period of time and draw water from the body cells and tissues into the blood vessels. They do not enter into the cell. They just remain into the circulation. And the major colloids used are normal serum albumin, plasma protein, and dextran and hetastarch. Now the crystalloids. Intravenous solution of electrolytes in amounts resembling those of natural plasma are crystalloids basically. They are the solutions which leave the blood and enters the cell. Although colloids do not enter the cells, but crystalloids enter the cell. They leave the blood and enter into the cell, and they used to replace the fluid loss and to increase the urine output. Major crystalloids we use are normal saline, lactated Ringer solution, hypertonic saline and 5% dextrose in water. This is all about the management of shock. With the end of this presentation, I hope you would be able to understand what the shock is, what are its types, what are the consequences involved with the shock, and the clinical management of shock. Thank you so much.